comes from the actions, the simultaneous actions of millions of people taking risk.
But the only trade up, Mr. Farage, is in financial services, which is okay for city boys like you. That's where you made your money in.
Well, financial services.
The financial services.
Financial services, the city is quite a small part of financial services in terms of jobs. My point is this. There were two realistic expectations from Brexit. One, we control our borders and reduce the numbers coming in.
You were passionate for Brexit. You said
Yes.
Brexit's failed. You said we haven't benefited from Brexit economically. The cab driver who brought me here said, you tell Nigel, I voted leave and I regret it.
Ever watched a political interview where the tables suddenly turn? Nigel Farage's recent clash with BBC's Nick Robinson is a masterclass in composure under fire. As Robinson launched into a barrage of accusations about Brexit's failures, something unexpected happened. Farage didn't just hold his ground, he flipped the script entirely. With each interruption, Robinson's frustration grew, while Farage calmly dismantled every argument thrown his way. It's a David versus Goliath moment that left viewers stunned and Robinson visibly shaken. But what exactly did Farage say that caused such a dramatic shift?
Let's imagine you in charge. Here we are, we've got your contract here.
Well,
and this effectively says,
no,
what
one
would I
second.
do?
That contract says something different. That contract makes very, very clear, and I said this when I promoted it, we are not going to be in government. I'm afraid that is what the Conservatives have done with it. And that's why...
So it's someone else's fault.
If you put me in charge, it'd be very, very different.
Okay,
but of course, they didn't do that, did they?
Let's imagine you in charge.
And the Conservative Party never believed in Brexit. But, now hang on, the Liberal Democrats...
I'm trying to wriggle out of what's in here, are you?
Certainly not. The Liberal Democrats last time round, Joe Swinson, vote for me, I'm going to become Prime Minister. It wasn't credible.
Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favour. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great! Thank you so much. Now, back to the video. As Nigel Farage strode into the BBC studio, the atmosphere crackled with tension. Nick Robinson, the seasoned BBC journalist, exuded confidence, his posture and expression betraying a hint of smugness. This wasn't just another interview, it was a high-stakes showdown with Brexit's legacy and Farage's political future hanging in the balance. Robinson wasted no time, launching into a relentless barrage of accusations about Brexit's economic failings. He rattled off statistics about trade deficits, job losses, and plummeting investments. It was a well-rehearsed assault, designed to overwhelm and discredit. But Farage, the unexpected underdog, remained unruffled.
What I'm arguing is these are the ideas, these are the policies, these are the debates that we'll fight and campaign on for the next 5 years.
Sounds awfully like to me that you're trying to wriggle out some of the detail. But let's do the detail.
Out of anything.
That you want to have no net migration, and you said you could do it on day one if you're in power, not gradually, on day one. Now let's be clear what no net migration really means.
Yes, I mean all the time people are leaving all the time, people are coming all the time. What we do know is that there's an argument that says we need more and more immigration because there are labour shortages.
At first, Farage's responses seemed measured, almost cautious. He nodded, acknowledging Robinson's points with a calm demeanour that caught some viewers off guard. Was this the firebrand Brexiteer they knew? But those paying close attention sensed an underlying strategy forming. Farage wasn't retreating, he was laying the groundwork for a counter-attack. As the interview progressed, Robinson's tactics grew more aggressive. He began cutting Farage off mid-sentence, his interruptions becoming more frequent and forceful. The BBC host's frustration was palpable, his composure starting to crack as Farage refused to be pinned down. But where others might have faltered, Farage maintained his composure. With each interruption, he seemed to grow more focused, more determined. Viewers watched in fascination as he subtly shifted from defence to offence, turning Robinson's questions back on the interviewer. The turning point came when Farage challenged Robinson's cherry-picked statistics. "Nick, you're presenting a very narrow view of a complex issue," Farage said, his voice steady but firm. He then proceeded to provide broader context, citing long-term economic projections and global trade opportunities that painted a very different picture of Brexit's impact.
In this contract, it says that you'll make exceptions. You'll make exceptions for essential skills, particularly around healthcare. So, does that mean, just quickly as time is short, nurses, they can come into the country?
I've got cases now of nurses who've been through university, who've been denied jobs in British hospitals because the NHS, with government support, have been employing foreign nurses, not until we employ the British ones. And for the British government to have been paying £1,000 per nurse for health trusts to employ foreign nurses. I mean, can you believe the scandal of what's been going on here?
Robinson, caught off guard by this unexpected pivot, struggled to regain control of the narrative. His rapid-fire questioning slowed, replaced by a visible uncertainty. The interview's dynamic had begun to shift, and viewers found themselves leaning in, wondering what would happen next. As Farage continued to dismantle Robinson's arguments with calm reasoning and well-prepared counterpoints, the true nature of this confrontation became clear. This wasn't just about Brexit or economic statistics. It was a clash between two opposing worldviews, between establishment media and populist challenge, playing out in real time on national television. As the interview progressed, Robinson shifted gears, attempting to corner Farage on the thorny issue of immigration. He cited what he claimed were broken promises, pointing out that since the Conservatives came to power, the UK's population had swelled by a staggering 6 million. This, Robinson argued, was a clear failure to control immigration, a key promise of the Brexit campaign. But Farage wasn't about to be backed into a corner. Instead of falling into Robinson's trap, he skillfully broadened the discussion to focus on long-term sovereignty. "Nick, you're missing the forest for the trees," Farage countered, his voice steady and measured. "Brexit was never about instant results. It's a long-term investment in our nation's independence." As Farage elaborated on his point, Robinson's interruptions became more frequent and aggressive. The BBC host's frustration was palpable, his composure cracking as he struggled to regain control of the narrative. But with each interruption, Farage seemed to grow calmer, his responses more pointed. In a surprising turn, Farage calmly called out the media bias on display. "Let's talk about fairness in coverage, Nick," he said, putting Robinson on the defensive. "How many pro-Brexit voices does the BBC feature compared to anti-Brexit ones?" The question hung in the air, unanswered, as Robinson visibly squirmed. The power dynamic had shifted. Farage, once the interviewee, was now asking the pointed questions. He pressed Robinson on the BBC's coverage of Brexit-related issues, leaving the host struggling to maintain control. Robinson's earlier confidence had evaporated, replaced by visible frustration and uncertainty. As the interview neared its conclusion, Farage delivered a passionate defence of Brexit's core principles. "Brexit isn't just about numbers on a spreadsheet," he declared. "It's about regaining control over our policies, our decisions, our future. Yes, there are challenges, but we've opened doors to new trade opportunities and restored our sovereignty." Farage didn't stop there. He broadened his critique, calling for wider political reform in the UK. "Our first-past-the-post system is stifling innovation," he argued, his words resonating with viewers who felt disenfranchised by the current political landscape. As the cameras prepared to cut away, it was clear who was now in the driver's seat. Farage had not only held his ground, but had turned the tables entirely. He'd transformed from defensive interviewee to commanding presence, leaving Robinson and viewers alike to ponder the deeper implications of Brexit and the role of media in shaping public perception. As the dust settled on this unexpected clash, viewers were left stunned by the dramatic shift in the interview's dynamics. Farage's composed performance, initially met with skepticism, had transformed into a masterclass in media savvy. Social media exploded with reactions, many praising Farage's ability to maintain his cool under Robinson's relentless questioning. Others questioned the BBC's approach, with hashtags like Johnny BBC bias trending within hours. Expert analysis suggests this confrontation may have reshaped public perception of both Farage and the BBC. Farage emerged as a figure capable of standing up to media scrutiny, while questions about the BBC's objectivity in political interviews gained traction. The encounter served as a stark reminder of the power of calm reasoning in heated debates, leaving viewers to ponder the true nature of media bias and its impact on public discourse. In the end, this wasn't just about Brexit or economic statistics. It was a clash of worldviews, playing out in real time on national television. As the dust settles, one thing is clear. The landscape of political interviews may never be quite the same again.